Today, I'm going to be talking about episode 12 of season 17 of Deadliest Catch. And in this episode, the boats that'll be in this episode are the Cornelia Marie, Northwestern, Southern Wind, and the Wizard. This episode, there's going to be a polar vortex that starts going through the Opelio crab grounds. And what a polar vortex is, when winds from the North Pole, they get pushed over the Bering Sea. And it's going to bring some freezing wind that'll cover up the boats with ice. And also, it's going to create massive waves, which will make the fishing harder. And it's also going to create blinding snow, so it'll be really hard to spot crab pots and other stuff. The captains and crew have to be really safe with all the snow coming down and the waves that are gonna be smashing and pounding them, then also the ice. It shows Josh talking about it, and he's like, these are gonna be some of the biggest waves that I've ever fished in as a captain. Then it shows Harley talking about the polar vortex and what's coming. And then it shows Sig talking about that. Then this episode starts out with the Northwestern. They're closer to Dutch Harbor and St. Paul. Sig was hoping there'd be a lot more Opelio crab than what they were getting, and they were getting about 125 to 200 Opelio crab per pot, and Sig's like, that's not gonna cut it. While they're doing that, Nick calls him after he'd gotten taken care of in it. I guess he had like a baseball-sized thing that burst. He went and got that dealt with, and it was all good. He was talking with Sig and Mandy, and he asked how the fishing's going. Sig was like, it's not what I want, but we were thinking about going up to the US-Russian line, up close to the ice floe. And Nick's like, go up there. Sig and Mandy are really considering that, and then they hang up with Nick, and then Sig's like, let's stack it. We're moving up to the US-Russian line, up by the floe, to go fishing there. And they're going to bring about 120 pots. They normally fish close to 200 pots, but they want to have 120 so they're more maneuverable and can get their gear out of danger fast, because each pot costs about $1,500 to replace. Then it goes to the Wizard. The Wizard is in Dutch Harbor. They're getting ready to go back out after dropping off 340,000 pounds of Opelio crab. And I think they have about 1.3 to 1.5 million pounds of Opelio crab to catch. They want to be at full power in the wheelhouse and have Monty as a relief captain, so Monty comes back out to be a co-captain on the Wizard. Monty talks with Keith for a few minutes, then he's like, I'm gonna go get everything unloaded and get ready. While that's happening, Keith gets a phone call from his older brother, and his older brother tells him that he's having chest pains and that he's in the hospital. So Keith has to decide what he wants to do, if he wants to go back home and be there with his older brother. Then it goes to the Cornelia Marie. The Cornelia Marie is up by the US-Russian line. They're setting them, and they decided they want to set them really close to each other, because with the polar vortex, the Opelio crab are hiding. They want to basically create a bait ball for the crab to come and feed and get into their pots so they can have really good fishing. They're doing that, and they have a crowbar to help bust the ice off the pots. They set that on the sorting table. While they were moving a pot from farther back on deck, all of a sudden, the pot hits the sorting table and a 10-pound crowbar goes flying into the air, and it hits Jeremy in the head, but luckily he had his hand like this, so he saw it coming. It kind of protected him from getting seriously hurt. Casey's like, you alright? And he's like, yeah, I'm all good. Then they go back to setting pots. And then they get all their pots set, and then we're like, that's it, we're done for right now. Then it goes to the Southern Wind. The Southern Wind is out by the US-Russian line, and Muncie is not the deck boss because he's captaining another boat for cod fishing season. So they have Steven, who was a deckhand on the Southern Wind. He becomes the deck boss. There's a lot of new guys on the Southern Wind. There's another guy, I don't remember his name, but he's from New York, and he's a mortician because his family runs funeral home. So he's been doing that, but he decided to come out and become a crab fisherman. The new deck boss, Steven, he's pushing really hard and not being so nice to the new guy, telling him to get out of his way or telling him hurry up, stuff like that. And Captain Harley was not all that happy about that. They're doing pretty good with the amount of crab they're getting. Harley's like, let's start moving our gear a little to the north so we can figure out where the Ophelia are heading. Then it goes back to the Northwestern, and the Northwestern is getting out to the U.S.-Russian line. They're about 10 miles away from the ice floe, and Mandy and Sig decide they're going to call this first string the Nick string, or the Nicky string for Nick Mavar Jr. They start setting their gear, and the crew's not really paying attention while they're waiting to set a pot. All of a sudden, a giant wave comes over the starboard side of the rail, and it knocks a couple deckhands off their feet, but everyone pops up and they're all good. Clark saw the wave coming, but we didn't think it was going to be that big, but we were kind of mistaken there. Then it goes back to the southern wind, and Harley starts going through his gear, and it's doing really, really well. But the new deck boss on the southern wind, he's still berating the new guy, and it's not going so well, and Harley's like, I can't do this. So he calls Muncie to see what's going on with him and see if he can come back on board the southern wind. He's like, we're going to fill up the boat the best we can, and then we're going to head into town, because he has to be back in town in about 36 hours to offload. Then it goes back to the Cornelia Marie. The Cornelia Marie is out on the crab grounds. They start going through their gear, and it's doing really, really well. Jeffrey, who got hit in the head with the crowbar, his middle finger on one of his hands was starting to swell up. So what Casey did was he heated up a paper clip and stabbed it into the nail so they could release what was in there, get it dealt with. While that's happening, Josh is up in the wheelhouse, captaining the Cornelia Marie, and right as that wave comes over the bow of Cornelia Marie, that's when Casey hooks the hot paper clip into Jeremy's fingernail to release the stuff that was building up in his finger from when he smashed it with the crowbar. Then it goes back to the Wizard, and Keith calls up Monty to come up to the wheelhouse because he's on deck with the crew talking. Keith calls him up, so Monty goes up, and Keith hands Monty the phone, and Monty talks with his older brother, and after that happened, it goes to the southern wind, and the southern wind is just pulling back into Dutch Harbor. They're offloading their crab, and Harley calls Steve, the deck boss on the southern wind, up to the wheelhouse, and he's like, I can't do this. I'm gonna have to let you go. But Steven's like, give me one more chance. I can show you that I can be better than this. Harley's like, well, I guess I'll give you one more shot. Then, after that happens, Muncie gets back onto the southern wind. It shows Steven walking on deck to the bow of the southern wind, and he's like, I almost just got fired. And he's like, I really want to be on this boat. And then Muncie heads up to the wheelhouse of the southern wind, and he talks with Captain Harley, and Harley's smiling, and he's really happy. Then it goes to the Wizard, and Captain Keith tells Monty, I'm heading out, I'm going to see our brother to be with him and make sure everything's good. So Monty is like, okay, I'll do this trip and we'll deal. So then it goes to the Cornelia Marie, and the Cornelia Marie is getting to their first pot from setting all these pots in one small area. They go through, and their first pot that they pull up has about 430 Ophelia crab in it, which is really good. They're doing really, really hot on their fishing right now. Then it goes to the Northwestern, and the Northwestern starts going through their gear where they're up by the U.S.-Russian line, pretty close to the ice floe, and they're like, this is the Nicky string. So their first pot they pull in has about 600 Ophelia crab in it, and their next one has about 500 in it. So they're doing extremely, extremely well, and everything's going good. And then all of a sudden, the crane on the Northwestern breaks, and lower part of it slowly lowers onto the deck, and Sig is like, what's going on? And he realizes, oh, crane broke. So this is not going to be good for the Northwestern because they can't fix it out at sea. They're going to have to go back into port and risk their 120 pots that are really close to the ice floe. So they're going to have to figure out something. If the ice gets too close to their pots, they'll maybe have to have another boat go and save the pots and move them to another area for them. But we'll just have to see what happens in the next episode, because that is how episode 12 of season 17 Deadliest Catch ends. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more of these reviews to come for episode 13's review of Deadliest Catch within the next week. Don't forget to hit the bell icon down below so you can be notified when I upload videos. Also, please share this video with your friends and family. And don't forget to smash the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching. And if you ain't dreaming, you ain't living. Don't forget to dream big.